You hear a lot about the Joshua generation from these preachers. So I think we're in
yeah, we agree on this. We've talked
Judges.
about this.
I
Yes.
think I would preach a sermon series.
Can you
called,
explain what that means for
Yeah,
you? who
yeah.
might
No,
not
he's
understand
going.
what
Okay,
the-
so
Explain
the-
the Joshua.
Oh,
Joshua.
you haven't heard it?
I know what it is,
Okay,
but not
okay.
everybody's
Okay,
gonna know.
Yeah, so Joshua, it's like a cliche in the Christian world, right? Joshua generation, we're called to take the world for Christ and win
take
soul
land.
and
Yeah.
conquer for Christ, right? So we've heard that for decades, and so
Which we don't disagree with.
yeah,
you know?
I mean it's great. Yeah, it's
yeah.
optimistic. It's
Yeah.
great, wonderful. But it's
There's
like,
another side to this, though. Me and
but
Caleb talk about all the time.
I would
Let's
preach
hear
a
it.
series called The Judges Generation because I think we're living in the Judges generation more so than some Joshua generation in the sense that Judges is all about what society looks like when men no longer act as men in an emasculated culture. And what you have is you have women rising up, the JLs, the Deborahs, the Judges rising up to take their place because the men have become hedonistic, they've been selfish, like Samson, they're just thinking about getting laid. You have, the Gideons who are weak, who have no confidence. And so the book of Judges is all about the degeneration of a society when men give up their rightful roles as men. And so people ask, are you for women leaders? Are you for women teachers, women preachers, women leaders who are elected to political office? Some that I'm really liking in Europe that are being elected to political office that I would vote for and I would follow. And it's like, are you for that? I am in a Judges generation. I am for strong women. When there's not a man who can take that role, who's not man enough to stand on principle and to stand for truth, and a woman rises up to fill that role, I am all for that.
Yeah.
And so
Because it's prophetic in nature. I mean, I see what's going on in the church space, and you have more and more women teaching and preaching, and you see it way more than you have in the past. And I've reconciled, same thing as Caleb, but independently on ourselves. We talked about this many times, but we both actually came to this conclusion independently of each other that I believe, you have so many more women teaching and preaching because in some sense, I think that when it happens, it should stir men to realize where we are falling short.
Right.
I mean, that's what Deborah
Step
was meant
up
to
our
do.
game.
There was not a man to, and if we just left this void where we have barely any men who are men, any men who are discipling, any men who are leading, right? If we just leave that void, you lose a generation.
For sure.
But if women go, well, I don't see no men doing it, which I think that's what's happening, whether they realize it or not. I think whether a woman realizes it or not, that's what's happening. They're going, well, if there ain't enough men doing it, and I mean by pop culture, I'm not saying in an independent, because somebody say, well, but in my church, we're seeing, okay, we're not just talking about your church. We're talking about 8 billion people in the world, right?
For
sure. We're talking about 330 million Americans, right?
Right.
So of the 330 Americans, your pastor who's preaching on manhood, it's kind of a drop in the puddle of a lake, right? So you have women in a whole who are going, well, if men aren't going to do it, we'll teach the Bible, we'll preach the Bible. And there's some people who are going, no, you can't. And to me, they're taking scripture out of context. To me, they are. But they're going, no, you can't, and this and this. And it's like, well, who's speaking on these things? Who's challenging these things? Who should make a man feel uncomfortable that they're not, that a woman would be telling you how to lead your home? Like that should make you feel uncomfortable. Say, hey, we need to rise up. We need to do our part in culture and society. So I think where we're living in right now is what you said is like, in a lot of ways, prophetic in nature. And I think there was an area 100 years ago when Amy Semple McPherson rose up, and you had a few others in her spectrum that were kind of challenging as Hollywood was growing and men were being emasculated as well. It's like I think that's where we're at, but it's loud right now. I mean, it's louder than in our cultural era. Like in Rome and in Greece, there have been moments where men were emasculated in that way, and you do have a lot of women in the church who made impact in those early days, but not in the way that we see it today. So I think it is big point to note that I 100% agree that it's more of a Judges generation, that as long as we as a culture, not independent, not just like, oh, their church, that, but as we as a cultural, and I believe the church can impact culture, but until we as a culture, but right now you have too many churches who disagree on where are the issues and where are the fixes to the issues. Some believe it's in the political spectrum. Some believe it's in the partnering with your city. Some believe it's in certain programs. But until the churches say, okay, on Sunday, this is the emphasis, the nuclear family. This is the place where we broadcast our message of what this culture needs. Until we as a culture do that, I think we're maintaining the Judges generation right now. It's just, that's what it's going to be for the foreseeable future.